Welcome you back, everybody. This class, we will be talking about the process and textual approaches to second language writing. So first of all, I would say I appreciate your hard work during the past weeks. And I know you had a wonderful narrative about your experience in second language writing. I look forward to reading all your posts. And I will definitely share with you guys about what I found next time. Okay, so anyway, thank you for everything you have done for this class. Today we will focus on the 3 readings. Demo, 1982. This is a seminar work. If we talked about the composing process, of course we should read this article, right? So this article is really similar because it gives us a chance to reflect on the composing process, because for her, the composing process is actually very important for students because they give them the chance to, engage in the writing topics, and also it gives them the opportunity to actually express themselves, discover new meanings and ideas, right? Okay, and the second one is Sasaki's 2000 work. And this is also good too, because this specific study gives you the opportunity to understand better how those, English as a foreign language learners, right, wrote in English. Especially when you when you read this article, you notice that the research design was really great because you can see this specific, triangulated data sources and also the statistics analysis. Even though the smaller data, still it's okay for you to do a little bit of statistical analysis, right? But basically, you will learn as well from her work. And then the last one is more recent one. This is something to do with the syntactic complexity. And as you can see, this focuses on not the composing process, but the product. So we can definitely talk about a lot of approaches to the product, but that one focuses on the textual features, more specifically syntactic features, right? We hope students, learn, to write even more complicated sentences, even more, kind of like sophisticated, syntax, right? But how do we know this is exactly what we like, right? So for this study, you can even use the very good tool to, analyze for you. You do not need to do by yourselves. And later we will have some hands-on experience. We will learn how you can have your students' essays uploaded to that specific tool, and then using that tool, analyze your students' writing in terms of the, syntax levels, in terms of the, lexicon levels, something like that. So I think that really be helpful for you as English as a second language, writing teachers, or even composition teachers. That would be really helpful. Okay, let's begin with Zemo. To begin with, I still want to go through all this study. Okay, this study focuses on the purpose of this study is to investigate the composing process of proficient ESL writers. Okay, what is the approach? What is the research study? Research method?
They use the case study.
Very good, case study. How many cases are there altogether? This is a small study, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They had 3 groups: less skilled, the unskilled, and the more experienced. And for each one, they picked.
Are you talking about the Zemo one?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Vivian Zemo.
I remember this is a small case study, and she only kept track of the whole process. of the 5 participants. Is that right? I kind of vaguely remember that there were just a few students who were, tracked during the whole composing process, because she actually used the interviews as well as some writing samples, right? They supplemented with their papers, right? They analyze how the students finished, I should say, with specific task, right? 10?
8.
8? Okay, 8, good. So I remember a little bit small size. Very good, thank you. So 80 students, the author collected data while the individual interviews. Once again, interview is a really important, say, tool or I should say instrument for you to, conduct, especially involving the learning process, right here, the writing process. But also it is supplemented with written papers. Why we should have those specific written papers considered as well?
Why should we have the actual paper?
Yeah.
Because you're looking at the product.
Yes, because you still want to say where's this specific, say, composing process can link to the product.
Yeah, where's it reflected?
Right. Where's it reflected? Very good. Very good. Okay. Then let's take a look at the results. The results show that the students use different writing strategies, right? So once again, remember these are the proficiency level. I mean, the proficient ESL students already, right? So, but their say strategies are different, right? What are the strategies mentioned here?
Removing themselves from the writing, writing and reading, and then coming back.
Come back again. So a little bit like the distance between the writing, right? This is exactly what we discussed last week, right? When we talked about the specific the autobiography, the narratives, right? With students, also use this specific strategy, right? So distance. The distance, try to say have a certain distance between themselves and the writing. That's right. That's right. Then they can come back and revise again, right? And revise and say recheck everything and proofread, something like that. Very good. Any other strategies?
I have the most proficient of the writers. She wrote it down in her first language and translated it.
Yeah, I was so surprised to learn that actually. Because last time you also, John mentioned, right, one or two of the students mentioned that, yeah, they actually rely on translation, so we'll see, because for me, I don't think everybody, do like that, does like that, but, usually, for some, I'm thinking about it, there will be something to do with the first language, if that is something that is so similar.
I thought about it, and maybe it's almost used as a pre-writing.
Exactly. Pre-writing, like the keywords.
Yeah, using their first language is how they're figuring out what they're going. They're working through the writing process in first language, and just thinking because it's just much. I would assume much easier.
Bringing ideas. For example, like I just need to draw down some key points I want to include, right? Even use the first language to outline the essay, right? Something like that.
I don't think they mentioned if it was a direct translation. It'd be interesting to look at it and see, okay, it's loosely translated from the first.
Exactly. And also maybe that's just the important role or legitimate role of a first language in their writing, right? Yeah, I agree. Exactly. So
I think in Sasaki's paper also Sasaki noticed that working on a group that he noticed that I think unexperienced or lower skilled students were using their first language and then translating that into English to write down.
Yes. So actually, we cannot say that translating is a strategy that can distinguish the higher level and the lower level, right? Because the different say proficiency level students may use this specific strategy a little bit differently, right? Yeah. Very good. So any other things? Remember, they also have like reading and rereading strategies, right? And they read whatever have already, what's composed, and then they try to link the previous part to, the part they're going to write into. For the, higher level learners, they will definitely try to make this coherent, right? You read and reread in order to have a logical and coherent paper, right? But for the lower level, students, they may just kind of like try to repeat and read whatever was written because they really are not sure what is going on there, right? Maybe this will help them a little bit, like do a little bit like rest, right? And then until they come up with some new idea, right? So once again, even this reading and rereading strategy can vary, right, among these different groups of students. Is that right? And also some planning strategy. I remember there is a student who mentioned that they want to have the internal dialogue, right? So similar to there is an invisible person who want to discuss with you. You try to talk with this person and you try to express yourself well, right? I think that is good. It's a very good strategy because at least you bear your audience in mind. This invisible person can be your audience, right? Or you can say this is the right person for you to say express your ideas. You try to test out your ideas, right, with this person, right? So I think that is very helpful strategy. Any other strategies you want to comment on?
Just some of the revision strategies were
Yeah.
the kind of polishing of,
Yeah, good.
not kind of the idea, not polishing the ideas, but more the polishing of the vocabulary.
Exactly.
They were more concerned with that than they were with maybe.
This good. So they may refine these linguistic structures, or they can refine for even I should say the overall organization, right? So yeah, it touches both. That's right. So judging from this, at this moment, we feel like writing strategies are actually shared by a lot of students, right? But they will definitely be individualized, right? Even for for example, we mentioned even for the translating strategy, they may use the strategy differently, right? In a different context, right? Okay. The next one, how about the teaching implications? Implications. So how this research can help us, in our classroom. So since students have this specific composing process, right? And then how you can help the students, have them engage in the whole process and make full use of these different strategies.
One of the points that the paper brought out was that having meetings and student conferences with them while they're in the drafting phase helps them to go back and revise and re-revise these things, and I think that knowing this helps affect the way we teach writing, because now we're gonna teach it like a continuous process where they write, we do the student conferences, we review it with them, and then they go back and rewrite again, and then come back. So that's the idea I got of it, as a circular sort of process.
That's right, exactly. And also, let us bear this in mind, the writing is recursive as well, right? Exactly. Very good. So we mentioned that, so here, Mimi mentioned that the teacher-student conference would be helpful for the students, right? And so when did you conduct the teacher-student conference? What content or what was the focus, right? We need to consider, right? We will discuss this again in a couple of weeks when we discuss teacher feedback, right? That's right, very good. So at least at this moment we know, okay, for sure, teacher feedback or teacher conference would be really helpful, right? But always bear this in mind that the students, the strategies, the students' composing process will play a role, right? Very good. And what are the implications?
Another thing with the student conferences, though, is because it's individualized, the other students, maybe there are common problems between specific group of students. So peer review in that case will supplement the student-teacher conferences, because maybe just the students, if we just focus on student-teacher conferences, students are going to feel like the teacher is the only reader in the audience. So if Google Docs or other online profiles that enable students to share and get feedback from their classmates is also very helpful.
Exactly. So here comes the next important one, that is, say peer response, right? This is exactly what we love peer response, because when you do peer response, then you actually make students kind of be more aware of the importance of your audience. You're not writing for your teacher, you're not writing for your professor, right? for a long, say time, especially like the English and foreign language learners. I remember when I was a college student in China, then college professor in China, and they really feel like, oh, I go to this professor. I know this is exactly what she like, then I will see for sure. Then this is what you like. Of course, teacher expectation is important, right? Because they feel like you are the only person who grades my paper and I write for you, right? But I mean, more authentically, I should say, our audience is what is wider, right? We write for not just for professors, we not write for even like the administrators, right? We write for the true or real audience. So peer response, right? Gives the students a chance to write for the real audience, right? So that's good, very good. Yeah. By the way, do you guys, conducted the peer review and teacher conference very often in your classroom?
Yeah, peer review Thursday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I try to do it with papers as much as I can. It helps for them to see other people's ideas.
Yep.
It also helps for them to kind of, and I have them where they're working groups and then they'll switch, and then they'll switch. It's kind of almost speed dating for peer review.
That's right.
That way it gives them opportunity to see a bunch of different writing styles.
Good.
And it gives them an idea of where they are. And, how, some people are better than me, some people, it helps them psychologically.
Exactly. So you put this stage peer response before your final, say, response, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you can also do the teacher conference sometime, right? Or in between, or even before peer response,
yeah.
Right? Like the brainstorm stage, or right after you have a sketch, and come to find me, and then I'll, say, try to verify everything, and how can you reach your goals, right? Okay, then wonderful, right? Have your conference, you have the response, and then you have your comments again, right? And maybe the students need to rewrite again, and then you comment again, right? So this is actually recursive process, right? We love this process and we enjoy this process. We know because this will help students enhance their writing skills, right?
I have a question.
Sure.
And a lot of this, as I mentioned, I'm trying to find it in the text somewhere. A lot of this applies. It's not just second language.
Exactly.
Is there anything that is second language other than maybe translating? Is second language unique?
You mean
So strategy.
it's strategy, right?
That would be unique. That wouldn't apply also to a regular writing class.
Because most of the research studies actually started in the first language cultivation classes, and the second language writing scholars believe, wow, this is actually applicable to everything, and seems like in our English as a second language writing class also, we'll benefit from that, right? So I should say, at this moment, from what we read right now, so far, and from this article, my answer is actually that can be actually applicable to both contexts. What do you think?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, definitely, right? So I don't think that there is actually a unique feature at this moment, right? But maybe the focus can be different. Right? For example, later when we, say deal with the peer response, for example, how would definitely want the students to focus on your whole response process? Then I would say there are some specific approach for, say native speakers, and there's another, different approaches to the, say non-native speakers, especially, for example, we will focus more on, for example, the grammar or something at a different stage. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So we will actually figure it out. But basically, all these strategies need to be really helpful, in both contexts. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good question. Thank you. Anything else? Also, the author mentioned the pre-writing strategies and intervention techniques. If you remember last time, I gave you the handout, right? The intervention techniques, right? So see, again, it can be used in both contexts, right? And also, of course, you should have an engaging writing copy. Right? You have the students kind of relate, to their own experience. Yep.
I use this in my 13-1.
Really?
Yes, I put it underneath
So good.
the digital thing, showed it to the class.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so happy you kind of take out whatever you feel is beneficial for your teaching. And of course, let me know the result.
Yeah, well, I don't have something to compare it to yet. So. And yeah, it worked. I mean, it's it crosses over perfectly.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Good. Any other comment about this paper? But just remember, because this is the seminar work that gives us the chance to view, value of the process, right? We really do not just focus on the product, because long ago we just really focus on the writing product. We were like, oh, we'll try to enhance the, say students, for example, the features, the overall features of their writing. But now, help them how to write, right? Teach them or facilitate the whole composing process. That is the hope. Right? Okay, but anyway, this is the essence. By the way, the essence of this paper is to let students find out a way to discover, this is a good word, to discover meaning, to discover their ideas, to discover their own thoughts. Okay?
Sorry, I was just, while reading the paper, I noticed that it says, okay, by discovering some strategies, yes, we can get the meaning.
Yes,
and these strategies are like rehearsing, drafting, and then revision. Yes. So, is it possible that we use, for example, these strategies like, I don't know, drafting, rehearsing, and revision in all classes and then get the same results? For example, imagine the students are writing in their own language, yes, not practicing the second language. Will they get the same result? The writing will be the same? For example, they asked me to write in Farsi, yes, and then they asked me to write in English. So do I really use the same strategies to write both, or no, they're totally different? I think really they're totally different. It's because while I'm writing the second one, yes, I'm also using the first one to help me, yes. For example, while I'm writing L2, sometimes I refer to L1. Yes, so L1 can help me to write L2. So what about just writing L1? Then what strategies do I use?
So are you kind of like arguing that you do not think this, for example, writing strategies for example, in your own language is a little bit different?
Yeah,
or
this
totally
is
different from writing in second language?
Exactly.
In which ways? In which ways? I'd love to hear more.
I don't know exactly, yes, too much about it, but I think, for example, while writing, now they ask me to write, they give me a topic, and then they ask me to write something in my language about it. So then I start writing.
Yeah, the one stage.
Exactly. But for example, first of all, I think about it, then I rehearse or make a planning, and then I draft it, then I revise it, yes. But now, then they ask me to write something in English, yes, even the same topic.
Okay.
So, when I start, writing, yes, it is right. Sometimes, for example, again, I do the same thing. For example, I do drafting, I don't know, thinking.
So you mean you go through the same stages?
While revising and writing, here I have another language, something. I want to write a sentence down, but I don't know the exact sentence, how, for example, an English person says that in English. Then I get back to Farsi. Or sometimes I think in Farsi, and then I translate it into English. But that thing never happens in my first language.
Then, can we say this just added to, right, your way of writing? For example, I would say, they still share some similarities, right? What do you think? The other two, because for me, I feel there are lots of similarities between writing, say in your first language and writing in second language. However, there are some new strategies you definitely need to use. For example, you need to translate, right? You need to, use dictionary. Of course, dictionary use is a good strategy too, right? Or you may even, say kind of like have more, say longer, I should say, brainstorming stage, whatever, right? That is definitely possible, right? But I still feel like that is just that add to the, say, strategy. Not to say these are totally different approach. What do you think?
But I think the result won't be the same.
So which result? You mean the product or
exactly the product? Yes, what you have written at the end exactly on the same topic is as soon as, for example, a native speaker or a native expert writer says my writing knows that, okay, this is not written by an expert, for example, or I can say a native English speaker. But when I have the product that it is written in my own language, yes, maybe that is flawless, or at least it is complete. Yes, but the second one is not as complete as this one, even using the same strategy.
Very good. Now I got your point. So this is really good one. So you try to argue that even though we use very similar strategies that, say maybe native speakers use when we write our second language writing, still the results cannot be exactly the same. We will still have some, of course, disadvantages, and we still don't think that our, writing is, good enough, right? I would say, of course, say that is right. We argue strategies, not so useful. Some people, when we argue, maybe still it's debatable. Why should we train our students to have these specific strategies, right? So the strategies can be learnable or should be teachable, whatever. It is debatable, right? Because we know, even for the lower level, proficiency students, still they use some strategies, right? Some of the strategies they use, and even they use more strategies, right? Did you notice that? So this is very good. So we never argue that we should actually teach the students this specific strategy so that they can achieve a good writing product. No, we never say like that, right? But the reason why we want to have this specific discussion, because this writing and composing process will help us understand their engagement with the writing topic, right? They will understand how the students can, of course, discover the meaning in the whole process. Is that right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think this is a really good, point, because at this moment, we want to clarify that. We don't really want to teach students. Because we have these strategies, then we can envision the better, the outcome. Totally, that's not true, right? But anyway, we try to, have students take advantage of these strategies if that can be helpful. For example, like as we said, these intervention techniques that would be helpful for your brainstorming. That would be helpful for you to, to pre-write. Then go for it, because that will definitely ease the whole process, right? Does it make sense? But of course, the product, the writing product, would be something we want to achieve, from different angles, right? We talked about the genre knowledge. You will teach students different genres and how you obey those rhetorical moves. These are something that we need to teach students. Then you will see, okay, the product can be better, right? So once again, you should have a different, say, approaches to achieve, so help students achieve their better product, not by, say, learning that individual strategies. Does that make sense?
I have a question, since that's kind of tied to what Reza was talking about in terms of that, the contrastive analysis issue, which basically is that the rhetorical moves that we use is different based on what our first language is. And how do you propose we help like EFL students who have a different L1, and how that orients where they place, say, the thesis statement in a piece of writing? How do we address those type of issues in the EFL classroom?
I don't think, no, some of it isn't necessarily just the first language difference, it's how they're taught to write too.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I did a paper on Chinese writers in crash analysis, and a lot of it is not because the language itself, it's because how it is taught. Writing is how they're taught to write.
Right.
So it might be, you might be able to disentangle the language issue with just the writing strategy.
Sasaki also asks exactly the same question.
Yeah, because when Reza was talking, I was thinking about when I learned writing. When I was writing, it was in French, and in French, the placement of the thesis statement is very, very different. It's very, you start with a topic, you nuance it a little bit, talk before you can even find the thesis statement sometimes in the middle of the paper. And you're like, what were 5 pages ago? What was all that? So as coming from that background, I can see how that will be different when you're writing an English paper now, coming from that sort of background. Okay, now I have to put thesis statement right at the beginning for a U.S. setting, for
Let's
example.
get to the point.
Right,
Yeah.
get to the point.
That's right.
So my thing is, how do you address these type of issues where it's clearly, partly because of how we were taught, but also it's a cultural and linguistic thing.
Exactly. This is so good because we will be discussing it next week, right? Remember, we will have the cultural influence. We will talk about the different radical moves by the different groups, from different backgrounds. So we will discuss it further about that. Basically, I would say this specific, schema would play a little role, at least some role, in students' writing. However, of course, once again, we mentioned that how the students were taught is also very important, right? So, very good question. We will, since time is limited, we will leave this to the next, week's discussion, and we will definitely talk about how these different cultures may, influence our writing, and of course, we'll try to figure out what are the good strategies for us, right? Okay, very good. Can we move on?
Yeah, sure. Just one thing is,
Okay.
it's really very quick. It is the same as a TOEFL exam. Yes, we have the writing part, this writing skill.
Uh-huh.
So while the students taking that exam, they come from different languages. Yes, but almost they get the same thing, or sometimes even the scores or grades are so close to each other. I think because of these international strategies that are everywhere, so they try to use the same strategies to go and take those exams. So this is why you see, you cannot understand that, okay, for example, when you're grading this paper, this is this one has the L1 in Chinese, or L1, for example, in French. Because of those international strategies, this is what I think.
Okay, so because they actually learned how to write academic writing, for example, in English, right? Okay.
I think because of the media, yes, for
The media as well, that's right. Okay, a lot of factors that can influence their writing. Okay. Good. So that is something to do with writing assessment again. So we can definitely link all this together. We are at the beginning stage, and see, this is I'm so happy to see we have a lot of discussions on different topics already, right? Okay, now second one. Here I really want to introduce the specific research design here, right? So of course the purpose is to investigate the Japanese, English, and foreign language learners' writing process. Not like a Zemon, in that paper she just focused on the advanced level, right? But now Sasaki looked at not only experts group but also the novice groups. Right? So remember the expert groups, they are just the professionals, right? But the novice groups, those are students, right? Some are, less skilled, but others are skilled, learners, right? Writers in college, right? So the focus, there are 2 research questions, right? I would say here. The one is focused on the, differences. What are the differences, right, in composing process between expert and novice groups? Are there any differences? Of course, there are some differences, right? So what are the differences? Now, number 2, if you only focus on the novice groups, you give them some trainings about strategies. So, for example, suppose these are the good strategies you want to use, right, in order to facilitate your writing process. Then I trained you how to use these strategies. Would great changes, would the improvement occur? So, this is the second question. Are there any changes you can see specifically, great changes in composing strategies and writing quality for the novice learners after 6 months training? Okay, very clear. What are the results? We'll see. What specific data we're analyzing here?
Well, this is why, sorry, I said Zano had 12, yes, the
That's right,
students are.
that's right. We have 12 students, right?
Yes,
Yes, and then there are three different groups, right? But actually here, she tried to combine these two groups into one as a novice. Actually, there are only three. One is expert group, the less skilled, the skilled writers, right? Okay, everything's clear. And the data sources include texts, right? The scores. They try
Interviews.
interviews, as well as. By the way, the interviews is very good because that is stimulated recall interview. Remember last time I mentioned
And also
when they
videotape them.
videotape,
Yeah.
but you videotape them and then you know for sure. Oh, see, the students pause a little bit here. Same side the students, say rely on something, not say, say strategies here. Then they just like have the students, the interviewee, watch the video recordings together, right? And they discuss, right? I think that's very helpful, very helpful. So this is called stimulating recall. Okay, everything's clear. Take a look at these results. 5 main results here. Fluency. Experts wrote longer texts than novices. Of course, right? I still remember my GRE test. I remember, when we did GRE, kind of dark room, tiny room, everybody typed, it was so fast. I got so nervous, Still, I just believe that, say experts, at that moment, I felt native speakers, I would say, we definitely write longer.
Still, when I think
Right?
of GRE, I get panicked, especially for the master reports.
Yeah. But anyway, later I feel like my writing is not that bad because later I feel like, oh, the score is good. But I'm sure that my writing was not as long as most of the native speakers because for me, this is something to do with fluency. We are more fluent and have more to say, right? We wrote longer texts, right? Okay, I agree. You agree? Usually. How about the planning one? You spend a longer time planning overall organization as experts. However,
I have a quick question, which you just said
Yeah.
about the more experience writing longer sentences.
That's
Is it
the number passages.
fast?
Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, never mind.
Oh, no, sentences.
Yeah.
No. I'm talking about passages.
Okay.
So you can actually have more.
Okay.
For example, you may even use more vivid, say examples to, say kind of like support your ideas. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, especially to be honest, I still believe that I cannot write really long narratives till now. But I will say I can write very long research papers, of course. Totally depends on your strong points because I was trained to write a lot of research articles, for example. I'm very strong, in that part. But I'm thinking if you give me a chance to have a creative writing task, then to write, I would admit that possibly my paper would be relatively short. Totally, depends on your own experience, your training, your previous knowledge as well. Does it make sense? Yeah, but here we are talking about the longer, total, the word count. Okay, not longer sentences. We are talking about the syntactic, say complexity later in a third paper. That is nothing to do with the, here I'm talking about just the present period.
Okay.
I'm not talking about period, right? I'm not talking about the length of the clause. I'm talking about the longer. Say the whole word count. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. The experts may take longer time planning because they plan not just for like specific keywords. They may be, apply for the overall organization, right? Okay, what I will go first, what I will continue to support my ideas, and what are my supporting sentences, what are the evidences, how can I do my conclusion, right? However, for the, say, novices, they may just kind of like rush to write, right? But during the writing process, they pause a lot. Is that right? Okay. Next one. Number 3, second language proficiency. It may explain some differences in the strategy use, right? Because, for example, in her paper, she mentioned that the novice students may just pause in order to think about, to translate how they can communicate and, say, express certain ideas in, English, right? But for the experts, they just try to pause in order to refine their thinking and refine their, say, English expressions. For example, they may want to, they do not want to repeat the previous ideas, right? They want to restate, they want to paraphrase, right? Especially when you draw your conclusion, right? You want to restate your thesis, right? Of course, that is something to do with the, say, higher level, say, skill, not just think about, say, to pause in order to translate and to think what I should write, right? And also, there are some strategies, different, so importance of strategy training. You can say some strategies are helpful, right? Some students say the training of strategies are helpful, but the result is that the language learners only, say, more often use the reading and the global planning strategies after training. But other strategies, they didn't see the statistically significant difference at all. But anyway, there's no statistic here because it's just because of the very small sample size here. But basically, the students tend to just use more rereading and global planning strategies after training. But it's not the case with other strategies. What can this tell us?
You should ask the question again.
Because remember last time we mentioned, say, strategy training is still debatable, right? We do not argue here that, the more strategies you train, of course students learn how to do that, and then which will lead to a good result.
Because he noticed that after even these strategies, the first writing, the second writing, didn't have too much differences with the first one.
So with the pausing on the episode boundaries, he did see some change. Even though it was a subtle change, he said that it was after 6 months, they didn't stop as often as they used to.
Okay.
Which still shows that the strategies has been altered in some way. So I thought that was interesting because before I didn't think that you could change the strategies that have already been learned, but it shows here, it was just 6 months, but there's still some improvement.
Yeah, so still some, say, strategies can be helpful, right? So you give them some strategies, at least they know for sure how they can be involved in the whole writing process, right?
And these two seem easy to implement.
Oh, yeah.
They might have chose those two strategies to use often because they're the easiest to use.
Exactly. Good. Very good. So how about next one? So acquisitional skills. However, you can see some strategy change, right? But then the conclusion is that the goal setting and ongoing assessment cannot be acquired over a short period of time. Goal setting, right? How to set your goals and how you can be say flexible with your goals, right? While you write, you sometimes change your overall structure, even, right? So that is possible. So this is exactly what the experts did. They set the goals, but they are not so rigid. They can be flexible, in terms of reaching their overall rhetorical goals, right? And then ongoing assessment. You continue to evaluate your writing, and these two, cannot be acquired, until after, say, long period of time.
So it's something that I have experienced as a second language learner. The more I read in English, then I can write better.
Yeah, of course. So because actually you have more input, right? And then when talk about the output, writing, and then of course, so you can see this connection. Okay, this is a topic we will discuss: writing, reading, connections. That's right. Any other questions about this Sasaki's paper? And any other questions? Okay, so everything is clear, right?
Mine is more of a comment. It was a good paper overall because it gives a general overview, and I think that talking about replication studies, if we were to replicate this, you might want to do like the affective question that she was talking about for future research studies to test to see if maybe the less skilled writers weren't able to be able to write as long because it wasn't a topic they were interested in. So
Okay.
maybe the role of the affective motivation and things like
Exactly.
that in relation to the topic of discussion,
That's right.
if they can relate to it, they can write more. Maybe this was only affected them because it wasn't something they were interested in to start with.
Okay, exactly. Yeah. And any other thing later, actually, I'll address the textual features about the coherence as well. I would say, even though we actually we expect that students can write longer, we can never say that length is correlated with the overall quality of your paper, right? Because, like, for example, in my research study on collaborative writing in wikis, the students may have really longer paper, but the paper is actually of lower quality. Why? Because of the lack of coherence. They actually have everything there, combine everything there, they just throw the random sentences together, right? Exactly. So, okay, length, complexity, accuracy, as well as some other features should actually play the collective role, right, when we consider the texts. Okay, and later we'll discuss the product, right? Before we get started, to switch to the discussion of writing product, I would like you to remember we actually get a lot of insights from this first language cognitive process by Flower Linda and her colleague. Okay, so can you please take a look at this chart and discuss with your partners in have a few minutes discussing this. So this is writing process. Actually, it's Linda Flower and her colleague give us a new window to see, oh wow, the writing process is important. Long ago, actually, people actually just focus on the writing product. Right? Now we teach students how to write. This whole process should be, important. This is what you did as a native speaker. Okay.
So for you to speak a second language also very well, how much in your reviewing process do you translate back into your first language? Or once you have your final paper in English done, does it ever go back, any part of it, to say, okay, I need to write that better, then you do it in your first language again, and then translate to a better form?
I think, for example, me, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, yeah, exactly, I did so. But now, no. Because now, whenever I have some problems, I try to go and find something in English and then write it down instead of giving back to my first language. Because now, I think that my first language blocks is writing fluently.
Okay.
This is why I prefer not to get back to my first language.
That's right.
Most of the students I've had are not as near as well. But during the summer, I had some pretty good ones, and they would write, and if I'd say, okay, this is a little unclear, they would go back, rewrite it in their first language,
Oh, really?
and then translate it again
Okay.
into a clearer version. That's why. They would always go back to their first language to clarify the thoughts
I see.
before they would.
That's exactly, yesterday I was teaching to China.
Yeah.
Then I had some students, the first language was Spanish, and then I thought, yes, when we were talking about writing, exactly, some mentioned that. Yes, sometimes when we don't know how to write a sentence, first we write it in Spanish, and then we translate it into English. This is maybe a good strategy for beginners.
That is encouraged.
Yeah.
That is encouraged because we feel like this should be the ongoing process. Because we don't want to kind of like say, let the students stop just because of this specific individual idea, right? Because you want to have this idea expressed fluently, then you just pose those, language, first language there. It's okay, right? You can always come back and check the dictionary, and of course, once you get that specific, ideas crossed and say understood, then that's good, right? Exactly, that's right. However, here, that is for the first language. This translation is a little bit different. How do you understand this translation? This is a cognitive model for the native speaker in the first language, right?
So translating their thoughts onto.
Very good.
Yeah.
Into language,
Yeah.
readable language. Very good. Very good. So is this clear to you?
No, not very much.
Okay, let's go together. Okay, how about the first one? First one, everybody believe that before I write, of course, I have the long-term memory. That is something to do with schema, I believe, right? So, for example, I know at least some knowledge. I have some knowledge about this topic. This writing topic is somewhat familiar to me, at least, right? So I have some knowledge, right? Also, I have the knowledge of my audience. I know for sure, okay, that at this time I'm writing, for example, to engage my, for example, if this is something to do with research articles, of course, I know I will submit this to a certain journal, and for sure those are the reviewers and the editors, whatever, right? You have this knowledge, and then you have your writing plans, stored writing plan, something you have acquired. You have already got certain training, and then you know for sure you have acquired some skills. So this is clear, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, then you get the task. Okay. So this task is a specific task. You have the writing assignment. There is a specific topic, your audience again, and then there are some motivating cues. Well, what are the motivating cues? For example, some prompts, right? Of course. I still remember for the lower level proficiency students, the testers even give them the, keywords, bullet points. They would love you to consider all these bullet points when you write, right? For example, you say, okay, topic number 1, first paragraph, you can write this. Second, you can write this. Also have some phrases there, right? I remember still, in China, we have something like even the first language. You have the key words there listed. Okay, first paragraph, consider these keywords. No? So these are cues, right? And then, of course, this task environment have something to do with the, say, projects, because externally storage of the text produced later, your writing product will look like. Right? What will your product look like? And some other resources. That is not something to say unrelated. That is something not related to your own skills, but something like for me like dictionaries, right? Some other resources, or even like the website. You can check whatever website, and then you go to check, and then you go get a lot of resources, right? Or even like the say handbooks, like the rubrics, whatever, right? Then during the whole process, you have the task, and then you begin to what? Generate your ideas, right? Of course, this works well. These two together, right? Simultaneously. And then you generate your ideas, and this is your planning stage, right? And of course, when you generate, and then you try to organize them well, organizing your thoughts well. Is that right? And you set your goals as well. For example, I believe I will write 6 paragraphs, and in each paragraph, blah, 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 and then what are the, say, supporting paragraphs, and then you think about that, the goals, or the purposes to do what, and what specific purpose you want to achieve, right? And the audience, once again, you consider all these purpose, rhetorical purpose, the audience, and your goal, right? Then continue. You have all these good thoughts. You want to what? You want to translate all these thoughts into the readable language, right? That's the reason here you go out to the external storage, because later you will have the text produced. Is that right? And then continue with this. You want to reviewing your text again. You want to reread, and reading and rereading, and of course you edit. Right? I think it's very clear right here. So once again, once you edit, you still feel, I may have some good idea pop up here, and then you go back. So once again, this is a recursive process. You do not feel like, okay, since I'm editing now, then this is my final stage. No, we even edit during the whole process, even in the writing stage, right? And then once you edit, you feel like you have something more to add, and then once again, you have more thoughts, and then it goes out into the language. Is that right? And then you even set your new goals. Remember last time we mentioned that experts know for sure these goals can be flexible, right? But your novice learners may feel like, oh, since I have this outline, this specific template or outline may stifle their creativity. That's possible because they feel everything is so rigid and fixed. Is that right? Okay, and the whole process is monitored, right? And this is your working memory. Okay, you monitor your use of language, you monitor your cognitive or thinking skills, whatever, and then finally you have your product. Okay. This actually gives us a lot of insight, when we analyze the whole writing process. Is that clear? Okay, and this really my own experience. By the way, Linda Flower is a faculty professor, is a faculty member in College Mellon University, and I stayed there for 2 years. I still remember one task I actually got when I actually took part in the experimental study. It's about that motivating cues. That's very interesting. At that time, I actually visited the University of Pittsburgh, but also I got a chance to work with the faculty member there. And I myself got a chance to be a participant. That project was so amazing because it gave you a lot of motivating cues using a computer prompts. I still remember the title is the whole writing task is something to do with the extra. What do you exactly prompt? What the world would look like, or what will you do if you have an extra eye at the back of your head? Of course, that would be totally, fresh to me. I have no idea. Then they gave the participants the chance to, interact with these prompts. So they give us not just the stable images, but also this, mobile cues. Does that make sense? I still remember a lot of cues pop up, a lot of cues, and all these cues help you, understand the topic and create new ideas. You know what I mean? And I feel like, oh, wow, this is so good. This can definitely, reflect the whole process. And these cues help me generating ideas, helps me translating, helps me a lot of, involved in the whole process. So, but anyway, what if I cannot remember all these cues, but I still believe that I was so engaged in that process. So what if you have extra eye on the back of your head, and then you write a lot? Because I still remember that the purpose of that study is really to examine whether these motivating cues play a certain role in your composing process. Right? I don't know their results, but I want to figure it out.
That's an interesting question too.
Yeah, very interesting. You can use it in your own class if you like, because that is very creative. I tested this prompt with a Chinese students years ago. You know what? They had a totally different outcome. Some of them regard this as expository writing. Some of them even use it as a creative writing. That is amazing. I'm so happy about that because at that moment when I gave them the topic, that is definitely there's zero instruction at all because I really want them to engage with this topic and I didn't teach them. I didn't say, oh, see, this is something like expository writing because some of them will say, oh, there are advantages and disadvantages of having an extra eye and then they write something like that. But for some other groups, it's just create an amazing story. Because of you have extra eyes, then you knew a lot of things that you never knew before. You feel like everybody's gossiping, and they did something bad, and everybody knows that, and the dark side. You know what I mean? Oh, still, I mean, find out that paper and take a look at it. So good. They talk about. So they even have a character. They have a character named a certain person, and this person, very beginning, morning, they didn't notice that, and later they realized, oh, they have an extra eye, wow. In the office something occurred. You know what I mean? So this gives students a lot of engaging, opportunities, right? They engage with the topic. and then they, express so well.
Plus, it's so unusual, you don't have a set, which a lot of topics, you kind of, especially for testing, you know what you're going to write about.
That's right.
You don't have any idea what you're going to write about.
Exactly. Yeah, you can be really creative with your writing prompts, I mean, it totally depends, right? If this is for like the final exam, of course not. But if it's just like a little bit like the small, tiny writing piece to, say, help students be more involved or kind of like motivate them to write more, you can have something like that. Or you can give them some motivating cues, right? Okay, sounds good. Next one, writing strategies actually, we have a lot, right? Of strategies you can use. Here I want to mention 3 that I feel that is necessary for you to know, because I feel a lot of students actually reread. They reread already written work in order to determine how well it was integrated with later ideation and how well it represented their intention. Does that make sense? So this is the purpose of the rereading. The purpose is to really kind of like have a coherent, say thought. Say you want to integrate it with your later, say ideation, right? And the second one is planning. We do a lot of global planning, of course, as experts, right? That is to say, overall planning for your content and organization of the text. But meanwhile, you also are involved with local planning sometimes. So that is to say, you say plan what to do next, what to write next. So didn't worry about the whole overall picture, right? So for example, for novice learners, they actually too much rely on the local planning. That is not good. You want to keep the balance, right? Especially know the overall planning. Do the overall planning first, right? And the last one is restructuring. We have textual restructuring as well as linguistic restructuring. What does it mean by textual? That is the higher level. We will call it above the clause level, at least the clause level, right? Or discourse level, right? For example, you manipulate this, coherence and cohesion. Later, I will distinguish these two. Coherence is different from cohesion, okay? And the stylistic concern, something like avoiding jargons, right? You don't want to have a lot of jargons in your paper, for example, or obeying the register requirements, right? Or student register, you obey those requirements, or you have the overall, say, structure of your information. For example, like when you write your introduction part, when you write your methodology part, for sure this structure, okay? However, we also plan for the, say, linguistic restructure, or say these are something to do with the lexical and morphosyntactic problem. So what does it mean by morphosyntactic? So lexical, you are sure, right? Something to do with the words. How about morphosyntactic? It is more grammar, actually.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, correct forms and grammars, exactly. So right here, so morpho, for example, like the plural forms, right? Some, for example, the singular, say passive voice, something that, say deals with the morphology, but also the syntax. Because if you talk about the grammar, for example, subject, say verb agreement, right? So these are, say syntactic problems, right? Students worry about that too. So we do like that, and we actually are involved in this restructuring. Is that clear? Okay, and then the last one, this paper addresses the, say, textual features, right? Right after we learn the process, then let us discuss the syntactic complexity. How many of you actually are familiar with this term, syntactic complexity?
This is the first time I've heard.
Oh, really? Yeah. But this is so helpful. Even today, when I reread the paper, I feel, wow, I need to use some of the tools in a collaborative writing project. Because in previous project, I feel like, okay, I try to analyze students' coherence, right? The coherence of their papers. Why not think about their complexity? Which is the people, when they collaborate, will they write even more complex, clauses, sentence structures. I never thought about that. But today I feel, that can be a good feature, right, about their collaborative writing, right? Is that right? Yeah, of course, because when we talk about their writing product, we can definitely not only just see this accuracy, right? Just talk about the errors, right? We talk about the coherence, we talk about listening. So later, once I share with you the tools, you will love it. You will definitely want to do this. You will check for some reason. For me, why I feel this is important? Because that would be really helpful for the assessment, for the writing assessment in the future. Because remember now, we try to do the automatic assessment. That is to say, we may want the machine to, say, do some jobs for us, right? But we will need to figure out whether this syntactic complexity has really correlation with the overall quality, right? If the answer is yes, then of course, testing this complexity will help us understand the overall quality and help us, grade the students' papers, right? Like even the standardized tests, right? So still, I know this specific tool that still kind of like need to be improved, and they encourage all of the teachers, the researchers use those tools, right, and then figure out whether there are really the correlations. Okay, this study. The purpose is to investigate the differences of syntactic complexity among second language writers, okay, with diverse first language backgrounds. So okay, you notice that the student population is a little bit different too here, right? Because we not only focus on the experts or the novices, but here we focus on the people, maybe the novice writers, I should say, from different cultural backgrounds. At least we know their first languages are different, right? And will their writing different, or especially the syntactic complexity show some differences? We will see. What are the results? Now, approach corpus analysis. This is not like the second one, Sasaki's. It's that one as empirical study, right? So we have the different treatment and we compare the different groups, right? But here we do corpus analysis. We still compare different groups, but use a different statistical, analysis. So I remember this one. Say they use like ANOVA, right? ANOVA and t-test. Those are commonly used in second language writing, because the sample are large enough, right? You can actually draw some conclusion from this statistical analysis. You use ANOVA and you use t-test to see whether these different features, are actually can distinguish these different groups, writing quality. Okay, what I want to point out are those corpus, okay, those corpora, as well as the tools. So I will actually explain these two in my next slide. These two, corpora and the tool. So this tool is called syntactic complexity analyzer. So the abbreviation is SCA. Okay, so next time, if you are interested in this, you use the SCA tool to check your students' syntactic complexity. Okay, that would be very fun. So I'll show you very soon. Now, the focus here is to see whether there are some differences, right? Now, the differences, will the difference lie between native speakers and the non-native speakers in terms of their syntactic complexity? So here, remember, this group tried to say, for the very beginning, we just regard all these second language, different, first language background, put them as a whole, right? The non-native speaker. But another group is native speaker, right? And then later, the second research question focused on the differences between the non-native speaker and each of these 7 groups. Is that clear to you? Okay, they tried to compare each. Okay, for example, with Chinese one, with Japanese one, with French one, right? And then see whether there are some differences. Now, the results showed that the significant differences were detected between native speakers and non-native speakers in mean length of class, as well as the complex nominals per class and per T unit. So remember, this specific tool analyzes 14 measures, 14, but only here 1, 2, 3. So 3 are found, say statistically significant, say different. So here, length of class, a complex the nominals per class and per T. Okay, to help you understand this T unit, the complex nominals, I would definitely give you a say handout, but I will discuss it in detail, say after a break. Okay, so I think John got one already, and then I will give you two, and then you will understand that better. What does it mean by complex nominal? By the way, do you know nominal and half here?
What's nominal and half?
Yes. Why is it complex? What kind of say nominals are complex? For example, you can have the adjective modified noun. Then you say, for example, red apple. That can be a complex nominal, right? Or you can say the clause, the nominal clause, right? I knew that Professor Lee is very nice, or whatever, right? Also, Professor Lee is very nice, can be regarded as a complex nominal. Okay, so anyway, I'll give you handout, you'll know for sure. And T unit is actually the, say, clause. I should say the main sentence, plus an independent clause. Or if this sentence is just a simple sentence, that's okay. It is also called T unit. Does it make sense? So the T unit can be the, say, complete or simple sentence, or just the sentence including a clause, independent clause. That is T unit. Okay, so as you can tell here, not so many differences in many measures, right? The second one, non-native speaker, those groups vary significantly, not from the native speaker, but among themselves, right? For example, in length, amount of the subordination and coordination. Again, subordination and coordination. So, your grammar, right? Okay, you're familiar with this. And phrasal and sentence complexity. Okay, so I think I would give you a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes break, and we'll come back and discuss the, say tools. Okay, let us continue to discuss the SCA, Syntactic Complexity Analyzer. And so here I would definitely go through all these definitions first, right? When we analyze these 14 features, we look at the specific definition here, right? So for example, of course we know for sure a word is a sequence of letters, right? And the verb phrase, the finite or non-finite verb phrase that is dominated by class maker, for example, like ate. Okay. Of course, if we were talking about the phrase, then you can say what hungry, right? Ate pizza or something else, right? And then this is exactly what you had problem just now, right? So what is complex nominal? 3 here. 1, nouns with modifier. Like I said, if you have like a red car, and then you have red to modify the car, right? And then that is 1 nouns with modifier. We call it complex nominal. Also, nominal clauses, like I know something. Okay, I know that, the clause. Okay, and then the gerunds and the infinitives that function as subjects. Running is imperative. So this is a gerund. So, okay, this is called complex nominal. Right? The next one, coordinate phrase. Of course, here we know coordinate phrase can include adjective, adverb, noun, and verb phrases. For example, eats pizza and smiles. So eats pizza, smiles. Okay, and especially use and here. So that's the reason why we call it that is coordinate, right? For example, and, or, but, something like that. Okay, and then again, it should be collected by a coordinating conjunction. Okay, now plus the syntactic structure with the subject and the finite verb. I ate pizza. Or we can call it the whole sentence, right? Clause and sentence. Same level here. Then dependent clause. A finite clause that is the nominal, adverbial, or adjective clause. For example, I ate pizza because I was hungry. So because I was hungry is a dependent clause. Okay, is that clear? Then T unit. T unit is the independent clause and any clause is dependent on it. Does it make sense? So independent clause, for example, like I ate pizza, we call it independent clause. Or you can say I ate pizza because I was hungry. Independent clause as well as the dependent clause. That is T unit. Is that clear? Very clear? Okay. The next one, complex T unit. So only this, I ate pizza because I was hungry, can be regarded as complex T unit because there must be a dependent clause included. Okay. Okay. Last one, sentence, of course. A group of words bounded by sentence ending punctuations. For example, I went running today. Okay. Oh, that was the same actually. Okay. Right? I was running today. Do you believe this is still a T unit?
I wouldn't say so, because there's no dependent clause attached to it.
Okay. So that is a sentence then.
It also can be T unit because T unit is an independent clause.
But the T unit says you can be the independent clause, right? Or it can be the independent clause plus the clause dependent. I mean the dependent clause plus independent clause. Right?
So I ate pizza, it is a T unit.
T unit, that's right.
And also it is an independent clause.
That's right. It is independent
Yes.
clause.
So
That's
the last one also can
Yeah,
be
so
an
then I
independent
think
clause
I went
and-
running today.
Yeah.
Of course, it can be regarded as T unit then, right? Anyway, we will have some hands-on experience. That is so good for us to know whether that is exactly, when they count T unit, if that is the same as what you will count. You know what I mean? I will give you the website. We will go there. You will upload a certain document there. You firstly do it manually. And then you see the result generated from the system. So, amazing, huh? Okay, let's go. When we go back to check the slides, I have already. Okay. So to get started, if you want to check this one, I would encourage to do so because this even has a website version. They do not say so you do not need to download it because for the second one it's still a good tool, but you have to download, say to your own laptop. But for this one, the good thing is that they can try this online interface. Okay. Now, first of all, I would say this analyzer is actually developed by Xiaofei Lu. And this professor from Penn State University, I believe. And then you can see here they have published a lot of articles addressing the use or using this tool to actually do the corpus analysis of a lot of writings from a lot of students, right? So I would say this is actually really exciting for us, for all of us. Now, if you go to this one. You try the interface now. So you have a choice for you to do the lexicon and the syntax one. So if you want to just check for students lexicon density, lexical sophistication, and lexical variation, and then you use this one. I didn't try this at all. Okay, to give you some demonstration. Now, how about this one? Now, here we focus on the SCA, right? Syntactic complexity. Okay, now the single mode means that you only need to upload one student's paper. But if you needed to upload at least 30 files here, you use the batch mode. Okay, wow, that's amazing. I will definitely try this one first. Okay, so this is exactly the direction. Okay, you can do this and this. So here, okay, the 14 indices covering length of production units, amounts of coordination, amounts of subordination, and phrasal sophistication and overall sentence complexity. Again, these 4 categories, right? So include the 14 indicators. Any text we can use. Let us try. Maybe we can go to certain. Do we want to try our?
Someone can use one of the narratives and just put it there, and then it will analyze it for you.
Okay, you want to do the analysis? You mean the online discussion?
Just, yeah, for example, I was
Okay.
thinking of, so it can do that, yes? Just copy and paste.
Can I use yours?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, wonderful. Thank
And
you.
It'll fall under, because it's max 1,000 words, so I don't think anybody's moving that.
Maybe do one paragraph. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be interesting.
Okay, let us do discussion. Week 2. Personal narrative. So personal narrative from Reza first. Which one? Are you sure?
Yeah, I don't think it, because they're all about 500.
Oh, yeah, 500, right? Oh, we can do. Oh, yeah, exactly. Okay, are we ready? So we have so many choices. Which one do you like? Do you want to just do T unit? I think we can do whatever we like. Any other? Do we want to do complexity unit? Anything else? Do we want to do this one too? Complex, the nominal. Anything else?
No, let's just add 3.
Word count, maybe?
Word count?
T unit per sentence.
T unit per sentence.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Where is that? You mean here?
Yeah.
Then anything else? How about cross per unit? How about still this one and this one? Or meanings? Or even meanings of sentence?
Yeah.
Right? Do we want to
That's right.
do we want to have all of them, or just these are good enough?
Let's see what we have here.
I think this is good.
This is good, but we should remember next time when we do jump, right?
Take a picture.
Take a picture.
That's right. We need to do that. Yeah, this is what I mean. We just randomly pick those indicators, but you can do all of them if you like, right? But or you may even narrow down. You know, you can just focus on 2. You know.
Like if you were teaching something specifically.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Let us do it right now. Okay. And then oh, here we go.
There it is.
See?
Oh, wow.
Could we write down these numbers? How about W, T, and CT, CN? You guys needed to go check and write down since we want to compare, right? For some reason, why I feel like they didn't actually, it does not show all these indicators.
Maybe if you didn't have any, then.
Oh, maybe. Interesting.
No, it has them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And they go down. I think it has all 9 of them.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's it. So that's 0. Then how about CT? CT means, so if you go to CT, that is called class per T unit. Oh, so that is to say, possibly you do not use much independent, you just have independent class. You do not have dependent class. Is that right? Exactly. Okay, I got you. And for example, CN, you have, CN means here, nominal. So you have complex or nominal a lot here, right? Then how about this? This is good too, right? T, let me take a look at T, the T unit. So you have something maybe 100? Let me take a look. No. Is it 115 here? The following terminal results can be copied and pasted. Okay, so actually these are the results. C and T. You only have 0 point, right? 9872. So that is to say it is so minimum. That's the reason it cannot be indicated here. Is that clear now? Okay.
It's probably just, you probably just had almost 1 because it's probably about 1,000 words.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So that is to say, when you check the visualization and you feel like it may not be good enough, then you check all these numbers. Did you notice that? Okay, are we good?
Yep.
Okay, then we'll try another one. Okay, then we'll go back and pull out John's post. So do you think this is 100 or 1,000 word? or just 800 something?
Probably around, but I'd never guessed his was as many words as it was, so.
We'll see. I will have this again.
Word count.
Okay.
We
T
have-
unit, right?
Yeah, T.
Complex.
CT.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, CN.
CN.
Complex number.
You mean this one?
Yeah, MLS.
MLS,
You mean this one? C or this one? Okay.
We have naming.
Which one?
then CT,
CT.
CT.
yes.
We
And
have
after
TS.
that, we have
T-unit.
TS,
TS. That's it.
then CP,
CPC.
CPT,
CPC or CPT.
And then
CPT.
we have both.
Oh, both. Okay.
Yeah, CPT and then CNT.
CN.
CNC or CNC?
CNC.
CNC.
No. See, I've taken a picture. Let's go. So now it's right. After TS.
Yes.
TS. Okay, the next one after TS.
Okay. TS.
So after TS we have CPT and then.
Oh, coordinate phrase. I got it. Yeah. So we are ready, right? Let us analyze. I like this tool. So easy to
It
use.
looks like A though.
I think again too many words.
Too many words again?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh,
Here?
that's it. Yeah, yeah.
See? This is still very similar right here, but a little bit larger, right? I remember the CNT here, you got 0.8. So how about T? 52 something. Not so much difference, right? See, this is something to do with the task maybe.
Yeah, it's
The task
informal.
is kind of informal and it kind of could do colloquial. That's the reason you really do not have so many complicated sentences, right? Right? So that's really important because next time when you run this, you may compare different tasks, right? You can compare students, for example, narrating, say, and the, argumentation. And to see are there any differences? Oh, that's amazing. You have a lot of, say, topics you want to go. Just now, John mentioned that he wants to even do like the comparison of the, say, students who come from a different first language background. See, those are excellent.
Well, first, write an assignment.
First,
Take a couple papers and learn to do it.
first recommendation class. Yeah. So you actually teach too, right?
That's one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, try to use this tool and figure out, the students' level and their, say, overall features, right? The overall features of their text.
And if there's no difference, I can tell them and they'll be happy.
Yeah.
There's no difference in you and the rest of the students.
Exactly. No, exactly. See? Wow, interesting. So we can actually analyze and then you interpret the results and then you draw a conclusion and also, say share with the students. They would be happy about it, right? Wonderful. Good. So we're done with this tool, right? I think you guys can definitely, do it after class. However, I want to introduce to you another one, even though the first one looks really great, but this one is actually, I know, more comprehensive. Okay, this is something to do with syntactic, they call it, sophistication. So not only the syntactic complexity, but also syntactic sophistication. So if you take a look at the paper, and actually I share with you guys, I will upload it on the, course site, of course. They actually focus even on the course level. Right, different, phrases and courses, and they include this specific TAASSC tool, include not only the SAC, but also something else. Does it make sense? So that's the reason. When you try this one, but this one you cannot do the, website wording, and you just have the, have to download it. But when you download this app, you can definitely choose here. See, did you notice that there is SCA as well? You can click on SCA So you can do tons of indicators. So you can do not only this syntax complexity, you can also do the sophistication in a phrase and clause. Is that clear? Yeah, can think about it. Good thing for you is that there is a menu. And I take a look at the menu, feel like it's easy to understand. Okay, so this menu is developed by two professors here, you can see. And then once again, they give you the citations here, Kyle and Lu, these two, right? And then they give you the chance to, say, work on this tool. So read the menu, and then you can upload more documents or the same documents to the same to a different tool and figure out the more features of the writing. You'll figure out which one you like. But at this moment, I'm feeling good with the first one. I myself would definitely want to use this, say SCA first.
Friendly to use.
Yeah, I know, of course. Good. Any comment? Are you excited about finding out these tools?
Yeah.
Good.
How did you do it before these?
I did manually.
Manually?
Remember, my research study is really qualitative. So that is to say, I only have participants usually, less than 20 at least, maybe sometimes 8, sometimes 10, sometimes 15, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel, okay, anyway, I didn't do statistics that much, and I just, usually when I do the descriptive data, I usually call it descriptive statistics. Okay, so that is way to the standard deviation. Then we can actually run SPSS. However, before we get started, for example, if I need to analyze the coherence, if I need to analyze a P unit, and then I just count it, I just do it manually. That's a really huge work.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work, even like one paper, But actually, for me, I never did this syntactic complexity before. I didn't focus on that too much because I focus on the accuracy, I focus on the complexity and the fluency. Because for fluency, you just need to do the word count once. Does that make sense? So then to say, every Word document, it gives you the word count. So that's it, I'm done with fluency. The accuracy, you just need to check errors. That's okay. You do some certain percentage, and then for the coherence, I use my coherence breakdown, whatever.
So for the errors, is this just lexical errors or
Yeah,
typos?
including the grammatical errors. Usually grammatical errors. Say typo. No, I actually didn't count and I excluded because in wiki environment a lot of typos and a lot of punctuation. I didn't do mechanical as well because punctuation. They even know they should use the and they just omit because of that specific environment. That's right. But for this one, I feel wow, this is amazing. I definitely want to include this as well. Wonderful. By the way, just now I mentioned that you can take a look at this corpora as well. I don't want to go through all of them, but here, if you go check, I'm not sure whether this one is free because for the first one, I'm sure not free. But for this one, I take a look at it. It seems to me you need to, have your information here, right? And as they said, I agree, to the above mentioned conditions. Then you get a download link. So I'm thinking possibly you can try. If that is free, you can try. There are a lot of students' papers there. This is exactly what I'm very familiar with. That is MeCase. MeCase gives you the opportunity to actually, analyze a lot of, spoken discourse. Okay. For example, by the way, it is called Michigan Corpus of Academic Spoken English. Okay. So, for instance, if you browse, you say, okay, I'm interested in faculty member, maybe junior faculty members colloquium, and maybe let me try Mandarin. Okay. And then you submit. Then you have one here. See, you have specific transcription, so detailed transcripts here, right? If you want to, analyze these features, and then there's tons of data for you to do.
So that's categorized by people. Is that one?
Mm-hmm. That's right. And so that is to say, when especially when you feel like, oh, I do not have enough data and I cannot collect data myself, and then you go, to this website, and you can find a lot of, if you try to narrow down, say the scope, but be sure that you actually know for sure what specific population you want to research, right? Sounds good?
Yeah, I've used this before.
Oh, you used it before? Wonderful. Okay, what's your project, by the way?
I think it was for a project using medical English. I did
Oh, yeah, medical.
curriculum.
I see. So was it helpful?
Yeah.
Very helpful, huh? Okay. Lastly, let us introduce two more important features. One is called cohesion, and the other is called coherence. What are the differences? People got confused a lot of times. Cohesion means there should be the visible link between the phrases, sentences, and the words. For example, like when you teach your, say, second language learner, say, hey, you want to use something like therefore or coordinate to show the consequence, right? You want to use like furthermore, in addition, like this additive, words to show you want to add something, right? So this is cohesion because that is a visible link. You can see for sure, right? Usually conjunctions, say something like the, say, repetition, collocation, synonym, or those, say, reference coherence work. Does it make sense? For example, you have that Dr. Lee in the very beginning, then you continue to say she, blah, blah, blah. So that is called reference cohesion, right? So you can have also the, say, demonstrative reference cohesion, like this and that. Is that right? Okay, you don't want to repeat, and then you say this and that. No. Differently, we focus more on students, the writing, we focus more on the coherence of the writing. The important thing is that the students learn how to use the cohesive devices, but they are not sure how to have a coherent paper. Does it make sense? It is very radical when you see the students use moreover, or they use therefore, but there's no logical connection at all between the thoughts. Does it make sense? So that's the reason why we feel coherence is really, really important, right? So that is to say, we want the students to improve their quality of being logical and consistent. Does it make sense? There is the opposite one that is called coherence breaks. So, for example, in my research study on collaborative writing, I focus on the coherence. I would argue that the more collaborative groups will produce more coherent papers, right? So I use coherence breakdown to analyze it. If there are more instances of a coherence breakdown, I know, okay, the paper is not as coherent as the previous one, for example. Right? So now here you can say the break means that missing the consistent flow and logical sequencing of ideas. There are a lot of examples. For example, you can see the instances of a misleading heading. So this is a heading, but this heading cannot reflect what the following text talks about. And the irrelevance. They totally put, say two, sentences that are, irrelevant right there, or you do not have the focused paragraph. So maybe you can see that in one paragraph they have totally different, a lot of the spreading or diverse, perspectives, right? So that is called unfocused paragraph, and also lack of adequate, justifying supports. So by the way, I actually use weak words, coherence breakdown, to analyze students' coherence, the writing, so in terms of coherence. Okay? Now, the relationship, you should be very sure that the relationship is, the correlation is really very weak. So that is to say, we never think that if the students use more cohesive devices, then their paper is more coherent. Right? There's a weak relation. Okay, there's a weak correlation. Again, the cohesive type are the result of the textual coherence and not the creator of it. Does it make sense? So of course, you have the coherent paper, and then I know you use cohesive devices to reflect this logical thinking. But you cannot say, because I have the cohesive devices, so my paper is coherent. No. Is that clear? So this is something that you want to work with your students. Because for me, I really feel like the students have a lot of weak points in this aspect. And the next one, this is the last one I want to introduce to you today, is called meta discourse. Meta discourse is another important feature in writing. Meta discourse is something to do with the devices that the writers use to organize their texts, to engage readers and signal their attitudes to both materials and audience. Can you understand it? If you take a look at this handout, this will show you exactly how this means. So remember, when you write, you do not think that you are a single person here. Because now we understand writing from a social cultural perspective. Writing is collaborative. That makes sense? That is not solitary, right? So even though you yourself write at this moment, you know you are dialoguing with a lot of audience, or you are interacting with the text, right? So that's the reason why here we discuss the discourse. You can of course draw your attention. So let us draw our own attention to not only the interactive resources, but also interactional resources. So take a look at this handout. If you check this first category, interactive resources, we have transitions, frame markers, endophoric markers, evidentials, and code losses. Okay, and then the second type, interactional resources, hedges, boosters, attitude markers, engagement markers, and soft mentions. How many of you are familiar with all of these? Different resources.
It's some of them.
Yeah, really good. So, for example, for me, I know there are a lot of research studies that examine hedges, right? In academic writing, especially in research articles, you can see the differences in different disciplines. In some disciplines, they tend not to hedge, but in some other disciplines, they hedge a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But altogether, hedges is important, especially in research and discipline. You really don't want to be really kind of like arbitrary, right? You don't seem like so arrogant. So you want to hedge a little bit, right? So this is a good way for you to engage your audience, and meanwhile to add your own dialogue to the whole, say, community, right? So you demonstrate not only your writing skills, but also your attitude to this field. Okay, so this is what I like. So anyway, you can, if you like, you can search a lot of research articles by Dr. Ken Highland. So once again, this is Dr. Ken Highland and his colleague that established this conception of meta discourse. Okay, any other questions about these terms? So if you read the definitions.
So for example, in hedges,
Which one?
hedges,
Hedges, okay.
they count the number of the prepositions in the written, for example, in the composition. I didn't get that.
So hedges means that, for example, the examples might, perhaps, possible. For example, you say, it might be safe for us to draw the conclusion that that is a hedge.
I mean, for example, now we have two narratives,
Yeah.
then they want to compare them together, then they count the number of edges. Is that it?
Yes, exactly. The quantity. We are talking about the quantity here. Of course. That's right. So, for example, like you want to say for sure whether which kind of, like, for example, yeah, for example, I'm thinking about even like the individual differences, right? Maybe a certain style, personality may, produce something differently, right? Then we're talking about the hedges. You know what I mean? And you think about hedges. Yes, you're right. So we actually count the numbers.
Be
You can
interesting.
even check gender too. To see
Oh, gender, that's right, exactly.
women might
Women
use hedges
tend to
more
use
than.
hedges more, right? Maybe.
I was going to say something similar. It'd be interesting to see the social cultural differences
Yeah.
between,
That's right.
the L1 of the writer or whatever, and see how many hedges he needs.
Oh, wow, see? You have a lot of research projects already, right? Wonderful. Not only that, maybe think about the booster too. Sometimes we need booster as well. definitely. So if you are sure that, there's something, say you want to, say emphasize. And I know there are a lot of engagement markers as well, especially, as you can consider something, or so you can see that blah blah blah, right? But not, I mean, it depends. For some, say journals, especially I'm talking about the research articles. I think you can see it very. You seldom see this at all if you have like a science journals, but social studies, social sciences, a little bit, can see more. Especially I know when I do the qualitative research versus the quantitative research, and then those specific features are so different, because for me, if you use I in quantitative research study, people will say, I don't think I sounds good. I really want you to have something like, say a little bit like, say, neutral, right? Not you yourself. But for me, when I do the qualitative analysis, when I do a qualitative study, and then we actually love to use I, because this is my own research and this is what I discovered. And I use I. I use I a lot, right? But in other words, so in another discipline, like hard science, you never saw I at all, right? You never see I, and they even feel like it's better for you, like it is blah blah, it is believed, or it is proposed that, or it is assumed that blah blah, right? They feel like they really don't want to have this agent there, right? That is very interesting. So we talked about the gender differences, maybe you can talk about the cultural differences, maybe you can do, and we talk about the discipline differences, right? Or something else. Okay. Well, I hope you learned from this class, and then we'll look forward to reading your projects later, toward the end of the semester. I would say this week, no homework. Good for you. We will not have any online discussion or writing at all, but we will do next week. So you can get prepared for maybe more readings, or you can get prepared for the, first essay. The first essay is something to do with the reflection paper. Remember last time I mentioned, I will be giving the handout, the assignment sheet next week. And you know for sure. But at this moment, you can think of the topic you want to address. Remember, the reflection paper is not a response paper. The reflection paper is not the summary paper. So that is to say, you do not just focus on only one article, right? So you try to kind of synthesize all the articles you read and focus on a certain thing. Does it make sense? For example, if you are particularly interested in the cultural differences, the next week's reading would be very important, right? If you are interested in the composing process, you may think now, because we have already covered all of, the important articles, that address composing process. Or if you want to do textual features, whatever, think about what are the say good ways, say to enhance the students' the overall quality in terms of the textual features. Even addressing lecture discourse and coherence, you can begin now, because we have already discussed some of them. But you're welcome to, say refer to some other resources in your, response paper. This is a good chance for you to demonstrate your knowledge in learning. Okay, and online students, I hope you enjoy it too. And I will upload all the materials, including the slides, the handouts, as well as some other helpful information to your website. Okay, and I'll see you next week.